Hey guys, and welcome. It's 8 o'clock, and I guess this is the Vsag Agm. This year we decided it was sort of getting more towards the fourth quarter of the year, so we decided this year we'd try and pull it earlier. That gives not only the committee members an opportunity to sort of get engaged and kick off their roles, but it also gives us the opportunity to actively plan for what's going to go on, rather than landing in the diving season and trying to work it all out at that point in time. So, which is what kind of happened with I know when Matthias handed over, we were pretty late in the season. So, and that's just the way it ran at the time. But welcome to the Vsag Agm. It is being recorded, so please be on your best behaviours. Good. So let me kick it off. As I said, we just record the AGM. Particularly, it gives us the opportunity to go back and look at if any of the club members who are not here present tonight, they have the opportunity to re-listen to the AGM and gather feedback and thoughts about it. We did publish the AGM minutes, and I hope you all had an opportunity to have a good, solid look at those and studied them profusely, and also to the financial reports. So I guess let's sort of kick all this off tonight. And I'm very cognizant too that I just wanted this to be the formal part of the evening. Try to keep it to half an hour so that we can get into the more important stuff around the history and Stuart's amazing email about grants.
Now, many of you will have realised that that's not really how I write, and in an effort to generate some interest, I enlisted the help of ChatGPT. And I think it worked a treat.
So yes, so I think that's going to be more interesting because there's been a lot of new people, new members of the club, and what it really is important is just to sort of talk about that history, because a lot of people have heard about it. We've put a lot of photos up on it, and the heritage that both grants bring on that from that island and those trips, and rebuilding it, and I think it's just a great story, and it's really a credit to you guys for that, and thank you for sharing the island with the club as well. So we'll get into that later. So we'll do the boring bit now. So let's talk about the President's report. Stuart.
So can I move that the minutes of the last AGM be accepted, please?
Well, that you can move that. Someone want to second the minutes? Yes. Who are you? Bert and James. Bert and James, second and third. So yeah. So essentially, my report covers different elements around the club's finances, recognising that, and I'm going to put this out here, is that we have had to spend a bit of money, particularly during COVID, to enhance the facilities tonight, particularly around things like the speakers that we have in front of us, and we sort of set a business case, because prior to me becoming president, I was treasurer. We kind of set a business case that the club would pay this back over a period of 2-3 years type thing. There were also some other equipment that we bought, which we're also paying back to the club. So it's important, I guess, the club recognises two factors: is that we have a little kitty that we can use for capital acquisitions, and we want to keep that for important capital acquisitions. For example, we bought some defibs. I think we have 3 defibrillators now within the club, and I'm going to recommend that we, as far as going forward, that we procure a few more, particularly as we distribute that around the club, particularly around where we seem to be doing a lot of diving, and that's really integral to our safety and diving regime. So we'll go into that a little bit more, but first let's get into the more interesting things. So here was the committee. for 2022 and 2023, there was, you know, we kind of divided and many different things, roles going on. Some of which some people couldn't make it tonight. I know particularly Andrew, he's in hospital at this moment, so he's having knee reconstruction or leg reconstruction. It's really a rough time, and I just wanted you to all be aware of who did what within the club during the period. And you know, the most important thing about it is, you know, our committee meetings, you know, they ebb and flows with the, you know, business requirements. That, you know, the committee is not a paid role or anything like that. So, you know, when people were available, you know, people joined and we did different things. And sadly, a lot of, and we'll go into it a little bit more next, is around planning. The committee did a lot of planning, a lot of effort, put a lot of things into it. But sadly, where it really got down to was, these were our events, but when you sort of look at the post-December, noting that, you know, it was just, we just got washed out. It really, we really got hammered, and it was a sad series of events that, you know, that happened. But nonetheless, is that there was some great, when it did work.
There's something right here. Anyone else has two?
Excuse me.
No, just one.
Having one. So, you know, and look, I love the social elements to the club. So if we go back and look at that Christmas in July that we had at Brodie Riley's, well patronised. It was, you know, it was a lot of fun. We recently just did one this year, and you know, that's one thing about Vsag, is we love the social elements of, you know, of the club, and it's really great that, you know, that we get out. Go forwards a little bit on some of the other things that we did during the year, but these are the main things. We did do a lot of training, particularly the training elements, and I want to re-engage on that because we gave it a bit of a pause. Things like equipment specialist days, we gave it a pause because there was a lot of that sort of stuff done during COVID. After COVID, we just need to give it a break. I know we did a lot of O2 certifications, and they are super important to the club, and being able to use oxygen kits that are in boats, and people knowing in case anyone's incapacitated or there are elements or issues on the boat, people know how to and feel comfortable about looking after divers on the boat. So they're the sorts of things that we did a lot during COVID. COVID break. We'll ratchet it up going forwards, I think, in the next sort of 12 months, because it's, you know, people have had a break. I'm not too certain too on how long St. John's type course have the validity date for those, but
3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
So,
Birthday.
okay, so some of us will be up to year 2 on it. I know my company, just so you know too, that those certifications that Vsag actually did during the last sort of like 12, 18 months ago was actually properly certified. So my company has actually leveraged that training and used the de facto office first aider. So please, you know, it is tax deductible too. So because you do get proper training certification, so you can use that for those that you have income from. Yeah.
I'm a qualified trainer, but it will be about 12 months until I can deliver first aid. But once that happens, I can deliver it, and you get the first aid certificates nationally recognised.
So one of the key, thank you, Stuart, because one of the key things I also want to do, and it was interesting because it came out from the presentation that was done. That the trip for Lord Howe. That it was interesting that some of the members of the Lord Howe team, when they discussed their usage of their dive computers, things like conservative factors, when to apply them, should they apply, how do you apply them? It wasn't well understood from that side of things, and I know there's also a growing transition to shear waters, which both does open water, but it also has a technical element. So we kind of got to the point during the year. I know who we can get to train and have honest, open discussions. And the whole idea with that was to do a 4-hour training session with anyone who just want to understand open water on their dive computers, and you bring your dive computers in. So I've got a trainer for that. I've also organised a trainer that would talk through on shear waters, particularly because there's the technical elements where we can get involved in. And I know there's people here that whether it be officially or unofficially like to go into deco. Maybe me, I could be heading down a tray hole or whatever, but it's being able to understand what that means and how to manage the deco and manage that on their dive computer if it's not set for those sorts of dives. So nonetheless, training is kind of the one thing I want to go forwards on. But having said that, I was disappointed when I went back and looked through Rev Sports. So thank you for those that got involved throughout the year on proposing events and trying to collaborate and gathering different people. I noted that most of the events were well subscribed. And for me too, it's like the four-wheel drive, and the four-wheel drive one where we were talking about going diving in the high country. I think that was a great, it's something a bit different, something that you don't always think about. I know we've had guest speakers in the past that has dived Uluru. That's another conversation, but nonetheless, these things make it interesting, make it real, and it's it was just sad to see them get, whether it be wind, storms, whatever. But that going on to that too is, we've still got other travel in. So I know we did a lot of international travel. My case in point for me, Elliot, I think in the room, and there were other people that went overseas throughout the year. There were other trips that, and to Ian's, travel coordinator extraordinaire, we had some great trips, and there's already been some more great trips proposed. There's more coming up, particularly, back to the old Great Barrier Reef, that Kalinda trip that the team went on. James, you proposed even that. That was a great trip, and it's a credit to you all. So thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm on the current one in November, so can't go to Christmas Islands, but I really like that about the club, is that people are prepared to propose, and if people do accept, let's log it and log it as something that the club does, and we're happy to support it. So, but there's some amazing, coming back from Scapa Flow, Ian's presentation was just mind-blowing. The photos that he took on Scapa was absolutely, amazing. What he saw, it's probably a little far for me, and it's maybe a little cold, but it's the Orkney Islands. I have since listened to quite a few presentations about the Orkney Islands because Ian definitely tweaked my interest. So, but Vsag definitely loves a party, and there's no doubt about it. Even when we travel, and this was one of the nights here with the club on that trip, and we had a great time. The other thing was the Christmas party. The Christmas party was fantastic. And look, for those that joined, thank you. Thank you for coming. Those that couldn't make it, well, there's another one this year, so don't miss out. So I'm looking forward to again going through another Vsag cricket back at the Beaumaris Yacht Squadron, and the details at least are up on Rev Sports this very moment. Date set. At least it's not on my wedding anniversary this year.
You got it pause.
So well, this year it's a bit special. This year it's 30 years for me. So I'm a little, I've got to behave. But nonetheless, it's going to be a great night. I'm going to see, obviously, I'd like to run the same format. I really, appreciated the efforts that the members did on that night anyway. You know, besides being a great night and the announcement of the awards and the giving of certificates and trophies, it was a great time. And I think going forwards too, I think it's a great tradition that we should, you know, keep on supporting. And it's, you know, Jail, he must speak to the weather gods, and he gets great weather for those sorts of things. So I look forward to hosting you all again on that one. Another one of the events that we had, particularly throughout the year, again, was, you know, the Labor Day dive on George Commode and the Pinnacles. And I think there was even a bit of a cray bash that went on with Dave Politakis's boat crew. But it was a great dive. You know, there was, I think Mike Mossfelt was the only one that managed to pull a cray off the Commode. I definitely looked for it. So, but you know, look, you can sort of see that it was still very, you know, it was very, I guess, murky water, and the storm clouds were still around. They didn't leave us, but at least we got out. We had a good couple of days, and you know, we also had some guests from South Africa with us. You know, and that, you know, that made it, you know, more interesting. So the club. So, you know, it was a fun time. I also want to point out the Inverloch crew. Now, for those that know the Inverloch crew, they, like Peter Galvin particularly, hosts a great event. So he's such a stalwart, and he's such a, you know, he looks after people, he hosts people, and he shares everything abundantly. And you know, it's, you know, Pete and Rowan, who live Pete lives in Melbourne, but he's got his holiday house down there in Inverloch, and Rowan, who just openly share, and they will you know, they work and catch crayfish, and they share it, and it really is. It's a great time, and it's an abundance community, and it's a great credit to the club that, you know, that we can have moments like that bottom left in there. But it's, you know, and then, you know, when they go down to that bottom right, who's the Hogans. So I don't know whether you just pinch one off the reef locally there, or
No, we don't take, we bring them out frozen.
I assume that was the case, but that's why I put those two photos together. But nonetheless, it's a great night, and for those that do have the opportunity, and we will run this again during our during the summer season. I'm certain Pete will come on. Particularly, we're looking particularly types of weather. Pete's well renowned to go cray bashing, and that's his thing. If it's not your thing, I appreciate that some people don't necessarily like cray, looking for crayfish, but there are other elements of the club, and that's part of being the diversity of the club and the great things about the club. Not unlike, you know, with two grants here tonight that also share the trips down to Hogan's as well, which we'll hear a little bit more about. You know, again, you know, the thing, you know, here's a classical time. You know, Peter, what do we got there? We got Rowan. We got Maggie there. His name? Yeah, what's his name?
Oh, mate.
So,
Oh, mate.
so anyway, they've got the guy.
The other guys. What's today's name?
Peter, of course. Another Peter. So we got Jack Peters. Yeah, so you know, the guy that they all team up on, you know, team down there at Inverloch, and they managed to get 3 or 4 days like perfectly flat diving weather, and you know, again, full credit to the guys. They had a, you know, from what I could tell, they had a great trip. But you know, it's always interesting about technique, and this is the thing I find fascinating, is that people have different techniques of catching crays. Now, Pete's got his own ways, and Pete teaches his own ways, etc., etc. But then there's this other guy called Ian Sholey, and Ian Sholey loves hugging crays. So Ian goes finds really big crays, and while he's hanging out on a deco, he's hugging his crays. with gloves without fingertips. So if you ever tried to catch a crow, there's nothing but a crow that says go forwards. So Ian just like to hug them. So I'm surprised he got all these air hoses.
And it's a dry season.
Exactly. So it was, I thought it was one of those classic photos. Yeah, I think it's really amazing. But nonetheless, for those that do like catching crows, I would be remiss without sharing this with you. Now you can not only catch them by hand, you've got to club them to death with the new measuring stick that's put out by VR Fish, that we're meant to measure them underwater. So Pete wanted me, to articulate that this is the new way, that you're not meant to bring them back to the boat. We're meant to measure them for size, and then
Is that metal?
that is, I don't know what it is, but Pete's got a few, and he'll bring some to the next club meeting as well. So it's, I don't know how it ends. Hey, don't ask me. Just look around and just think about your taxpayer money. This is where it goes. So all right. So moving along, I do want to talk about the midweek dive masters, and these guys. It's fascinating. Ian is always out, and full credit to Ian about all the things that he gets up to. He's doing the travel. He's traveling overseas, and then during the week, he's out, and then his pet loves the hurricane, and he's just awesome to have him part of the dive, part of Vsag and the stuff and the promotional work that he actually does with us. Peter Beaumont's the bottom. It's fascinating because I struggle to find photos of Peter. He's always will make his boat available midweek. He's always out with Ian, but nonetheless, he's entering the photo competition, but it's hard to find a photo of Peter. So if you're ever keen for a midweek dive,
all the good weather happens during the week, guys.
I'm glad to hear you're there. So,
I've also got the George Club AGM going at the moment too, so I'm watching that.
okay. Well, I was lucky we weren't at the Matildas game tonight, so that's at least tomorrow.
You're on another score?
Tomorrow. You tell me the lottery numbers and stuff. Anyway, so look, thank you, I guess, to both of you for your efforts and how you give access to the bay during the week for those that can, and I really appreciated it. So now we spoke a little bit about the weather. Now this is a bit of a running joke. So you have to start the left-hand side. So there's a group of us that went off that did the Lord Howe trip, and it sort of started really nicely on the left-hand side there. They flew to Sydney, and the goal was to catch the Qantas club. Take the Qantas trip out to Lord Howe. The middle picture is about the fourth attempt for that plane to take off, and the patients were absolutely wearing thin. And Brian's going, "You got to be kidding me! Is this really going to happen?" So I'm not 100% certain, but unfortunately I didn't make that trip. But definitely they were elated when they actually got to the other end. But it was, and to Ian's credit again, he pretty much worked and found a whole sack of things to do in Sydney that were diving related. So. And finally, like weather keeps on giving. Particularly, I was a member, and Elliot is here tonight. We're a member of the trip that did the Philippines, and so you think you escape Australia and get out of the weather. No, we got smashed by a hurricane, trapped on an island, and we go on. Here we go. And that was fascinating in itself, because when we had that trip, and we were pulling 5 dives a day. We got up to 50 dives in 2 weeks. we really worked hard to get these numbers up. And then we were seventh, like we'd had the first dive at 6 a.m. We got back at 7:30, and the harbour master was meant to make the call about closing the bay. And so we'd kind of worked it out. We'd do one more dive and we'd get on the 11 o'clock boat and get out of there because it was the end of the day. And that was kind of a recommendation. Well, didn't we get done over by the local resort? We got back up from that second dive, and sure enough, the strait was closed. There were no more ferries back to the mainland. And even if we could have got across onto the mainland at 1 a.m. in the morning, and this is how flights work in the Philippines, at 1 a.m. in the morning when our flight was meant to fly out, that was the epicenter of the hurricane. But they still didn't cancel the flight. They just delayed it. And it's those that have ever been to the Philippine airport, it's been voted the world's worst airport for several reasons. And I can absolutely, even the short stint afterwards we had, I could absolutely say I know why. So, the weather got us, no matter if we were domestic or whether we were internationally, the weather gods were just out to get us last year. So I'm really hoping that going forwards next year is, a lot less problematic. Or this year anyway for the club. Guest speakers, we had some really great ones. Des on the ship's graveyard. I really appreciated that, and thank you for doing that. Who's here tonight? And Elodie, actually, you started twice, so you did really well. But it was interesting to sort of, I went back and had a look and sort of saw the where we were and where we are now, and that was fantastic. So Mike Scotland from Dive magazine, that was a really interesting night as well. And then who could forget Ian's Orkney trip to Scapa Flow. It was just riveting. It had us all on our edge. So that was, there was some really great, great conversations. Fathoms. This brings me to I'm kind of a bit vexed at this point. I gotta say thank you to anyone who has contributed to Fathoms, but the reality is that reflecting what Matthias said last year, that Peter Walters is the editor, he is not the writer. And in that kind of last 12 months, and we had a conversation at the committee meeting last week about whether we publish the final one for this year. We've published one before the committee, the AGM tonight, or do we do it afterwards? We decided we do it afterwards because there may be some elections here that we can announce as part of that. But there was only one magazine. So when we talk about the literary award, not the literacy award that we've tried to do in the past, the literary award, there's literally only one magazine article, one issue that we've got to do it. So I can only implore, this is the club's history. This is what the club's about. This is about who we are. When we go back and look on our website, there's a lot of efforts that club members have put in to correlate and index all of the old Vsag magazines all the way back to 1950 or something. So to have only one within that period, it's a bit hard. So look, I'm really asking you to rally around and write a dive report. They're not onerous. We can embellish it. We can do more with that, but it's about ideas and it's about getting something down. So, and particularly, I know a lot of our people have travelled. Myself and Point, is that we need to, well, we should write a little drive report or something about the travel that we've done. I see a lot of things on Facebook, and it's not a, that's one area of content, but it's more about, we just need a little bit more to make it a Fathoms article, and it's not too onerous on all. So let's be cognizant of that and to put last year's Fathoms behind us and really go forward. Full credit to to the people that do write articles. So and kind of the next phase now, and that's kind of the end of my presentation, where I figured that's what the club achieved. This is where we went. If there's any questions before I hand over to Walter, that probably take us through a little bit around what the Treasurer's report is. So any questions, those online? No? Cool. So I hand over to Walter. Okay. So you want to? I can move to the next page, or
Yeah. Oh yeah, move to the next page and I'll just go to the top. Okay, so I sent, was it yesterday? I think I sent this out yesterday. Pardon? And hopefully you had a chance to look at it. The initial one I sent, there was a little bit of an error in the Excel spreadsheet, so it's fixed up, all the numbers matched. I'm happy, it's the main thing. And what I've done this year, which is different to the previous years, in the previous years, if we had an event where people were paying for the event, and then the club was then paying the cost of that event out of the monies that were given by the people, that was in this top bit. So that's not really club business, it's just a holding account.
Yeah.
So what I've done is pulled those things out, like the Labor Day weekend, and couldn't specialist day training, and the first day course for Christmas was right out of our normal day-to-day stuff, but we can see what we're spending and what our income is. And yeah, so most of our income is in, with not 99% is in membership fees, get a small amount in interest. Let's see, and our expense, on the expense side of things, the biggest expense is the insurance. About 200-300 a year. It might go up again next year, not too sure. It's simply going up a bit every year. Last year we had a lot of expenses in, as Angus was saying, in the IT equipment, and also the VFIX. This year we haven't spent as much in anything, and we have actually had a net income of about $5,500, which is a lot and probably higher than what we would want, but it made up for the expenses that we had the previous year, and we're now back at a comfortable balance. So next year or this coming year we'll be able to spend a lot more, hopefully. And so any ideas,
subject to
let us
weather.
know, so we know and we can put out. Want to
move it
to the next one?
Yep.
And so here's our balance, the balance sheet over the last 2, 4, 5 years. So we've basically come back to, in terms of balance, of 16,000 what we had in 2021. So we're looking good. That's it. And this year too, I sent out a list of all the transactions that we had, so you can see what was going on. So if you've got any questions, you might not have it now, you can always email me and whatnot, and I can try and endeavour to answer them. So happy with it? Can someone move that?
So, yeah, people happy with that?
Yeah.
The financial position of the club, and yep. So anyone can, who's going to Elodie? Second the motion. So
Okay.
thank you, Walter. Look, it's like I said, is if you think about those six major events, we normally would have sponsored those for at least $300 or $400. that's kind of why there is a bigger balance than what we normally expect. But going forwards, it'll be, it'll go back to the club without a doubt. It'll be spent for areas that we want to do events and grow, do the right thing. So it puts us back, if you look at those numbers there, it puts us a little bit ahead of where we were in 2021. But, we try and hold it around that operating profit. It gives us, it also gives us an opportunity to do some things around, we know we've run down our, I guess, all the things around the club merch, as we need to do a lot larger order on that. We just need to renew it. What we try and do, and I've got an action on me to look to work with Ian and make sure that those that have joined the club have at least got a t-shirt or a beanie. We normally give out some stickers as part of it. We just need to get that going. Make sure that that's still happening, or it might be a hat, whatever works for you. The merch side, I know Elliot did quite a bit of work on that during the year. There's some options there around t-shirts and things like that. And I do appreciate that we've looked at rejuvenating that. So it's just a stock thing at the moment. So that gives us an opportunity now to go and buy some stock, have that available to people. So that's great. So let's move on again. Committee election. So I guess there's been a few people that have come and gone and moved out of the committee. On the left-hand side is the people that I understand that are going to remain in the committee going forwards. We've had five people essentially leave, and I've actually only had one person reply to me and say they're interested in being part of the committee. So firstly, I just want to propose a motion, and thank you, David, who's here tonight. Is there any objections if David joins the committee?
We don't have the opportunity for objections. So if there's less or the same number of people as vacant roles,
Yep.
then they go in without any.
Okay. So
no matter anyone hates them.
I just want to thank. At that point, I just want to thank David as putting his hand up to be part of the committee. It's not an onerous role during winter. It does get a little bit more busy going through the summer season, so it's a bit of peaks and troughs. But we can't have it fall back on just a handful of people. So I really would appreciate the club. We have 80 something paid members. We have a further 20 or so life we have a large pool of people. Get involved. You can give a couple of hours, on average over the year. That's great. It'll pick up, at the committee level. Otherwise we just have to start dropping things. We can't. This is not a paid role. We all have our work and we're our full-time jobs, but
can I make a suggestion, which is not everyone's either good at or wants to be on a committee, but happy to do work. So I'm happy for people to come to me and say, we're organising this trip, I want somebody to help me, and I'm happy to do some work.
That's awesome, Sue. So yeah, I'm more than happy to work that way with people, but again, people have to say, look, I'm happy to do those. I'm going to say more project type work, like an initiative or an event style work. If people, like I know Stu's expressed, like while Stu stepped down from the committee, he's more than happy to do, cooking and do an event and be part of that. So happy to do those sorts of things. It's just a matter of knowing who we can call on from the committee.
I quite like organising sort of travel things, or travel and trips. That would be quite fun.
Okay. No, that's cool. So Thank you. So we'll, I guess we've kind of recorded that in a way. It's going to go to Vsag history. But you know, that's the sort of thing. So please, you know, please get involved. It is your club. It is, you know, and it's, you know, there are people that do, you know, that do a huge amount of work in the background for the, you know, for everyone's benefit. So, you know,
Can I ask a question on that slide?
Yeah.
Ian and Peter, there's a splash between there. Anything significant about that? Or
yeah, okay.
there's no room.
No,
Picky at the bottom.
part of that is that travel's not a particular committee role, and so Ian does a lot of work around travel, and we're happy to keep Ian involved in the committee, and so he understands. And look, Ian's a life member, and yeah, he does so much for the club. So, and Peter Moss also.
He's on the committee.
No, Peter Mosse is, I'm going to say, is Peter Mosse is kind of underpins Fathoms. Like he's part of the. It is embarrassing the number of articles Peter Mosse has written for Fathoms. So you know, look, to Peter Mosse, you know, again, it must be the Peters because it is the Peters of the club that really do underpin a lot of this. So. Was so funny.
Terry was asking,
Oh,
is providing suggestions.
anyway, so hopefully that goes away. But yeah, so look, please, you know, be in contact, send an email to committee@vsag.org.au and it will go to us. You know, we meet, and just so you understand, we meet at the moment, we meet on the second Wednesday of the month. We have a meeting from 8 till 9:30. That's all it is. That's the only that's the only sort of thing that we try and take out of your day. And plus, it might be like a function that you might want to run. So that's on top of that. You know, there's been some, you know, some great nominations, and I do say, is anyone can? This is club. Anyone can nominate a trip. Sue could nominate a trip. I know, James, you're always nominating trips, you know, and you don't, yeah, but you know, Ian nominates trips, so it doesn't have to be the select person. You know, the Grants nominate trips to Hogan's, and they're fantastic. So, God, I cracked on for too long too. I just looked at the time. Anyway, so that's it. So I'll leave that be from committee elections. Walt, just double checking the budget membership fees for next year. I think we're going to say it remains the same, subject to what the new committee decides.
In terms of budget, we've got excess funds to spend, and it depends on how many people also stay on as members in the next few months. And so the next committee will work out how we're going to do the funds. And in terms of, we thought that we'd stay at $100 for membership again this year. Well, that's what we recommend. But
So
it's up to the.
So we'll keep it consistent, and then we'll look what the plans are. Cool.
So we've got to
We have to.
get the members to agree to $100.
So
That's the motion.
we're the motion, I guess, stands is, do we agree that we keep it at $100 and look at what we do with it? So, and the committee has who's proposing there? Stuart, Des, Elodie, so everyone's happy. Everyone's happy. Keep it at $100.
Online.
And look, obviously,
Happy?
online happy, maybe a thumbs up or something. But that's the real. You know, we're trying to keep it. It's still cheap. Yeah.
Ridiculously cheap.
And look, honestly, I can tell you now for a fact that if you ever did a trip with one of the commercial travel, or the commercial scuba shops, nothing's cheaper than a Vsag trip, because all the credits go back to the people, you know, the divers. There's no all the discounts, unlike the commercial shops where you actually pay for the commercial shops person to go. So, you know, it really is, you know, it's to your benefit. So cool. So membership fees guaranteed. I've tried to sort of keep a lot of the photos too throughout the year of club members and places we went to as well. So I want to talk about this guy, Frank Clements. He's one of our club members. You know, Frank's wheelchair bound. That's another story. I'd love Frank one night to have a conversation with us about how he got it. It's a fascinating story. I knew Frank before when he could walk. He's a fantastic scuba diver, and even in our trip to the Philippines, Elliot, I think you'd even agree with me. Frank is a fantastic diver, and he's a great photographer. Fearless.
Want to dive with Frank beside me.
So he even to this day rides a motorbike. So Frank, you know, it's an awful credit to you, man. I really appreciate you being part of the club. So, bylaws and constitutions. Andrew, are you online? Was there any changes? I didn't think we had any.
Can't make any changes to the constitution. We have to
Well, yeah.
for a week's notice, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So
Nothing we need to do with this.
I don't think
Don't
there's
think
any.
we changed the bylaw.
I don't believe there was.
No. So that's all cool. So it's still consistent. It's just process that we have to go through. I just want to be part of that. Yeah, what do we do? Other business? Any other business for the AGM? I'm 15 minutes late.
We just thank the committee members standing down, I guess. 'cause,
Yes.
A lot of them have done a lot of work, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that, yeah, that thank you too for the existing community, the exiting community members. We will, I think we'll do some recognition at the Christmas function for as well. So, yeah, I do appreciate that, David. So, you know,
I appreciate what you've done.
Yeah.
so, and so I think I can honestly say we are closed. I'm stopping the recording of the AGM, and I'm going to hand over at this point now to Grant, and we'll have a